the stories about Goliath, the blizzard, just not going away. Someone finally got a hold of James Loomis. You know, he's city manager. He's in charge of everything that's been going on. And he declined interviews with the media earlier. Well, he was in Florida. Yeah, he's busy. Headline from KCBD. I've got two of them from KCBD. The first one, City Manager Loomis gives Lubbock an A for storm response. An A. Now, I'm going to bring up the poll question from yesterday. And we didn't give out grades yesterday, but we asked the KFYO audience and other audiences as well, how would you rate the city's response to the blizzard? This is what folks had to say. 5% said excellent. I would say that would be an A. Excellent. 5%. Good, 12%. Fair, 15%. Poor. That'd probably be a failure. Poor in this one. 60%. And then some of the comments, very poor, pitiful. Lubbock was void of leadership. Extremely poor. I've never seen a city so unprepared. Abysmal. One person said it doesn't matter, it'll melt. I think that's the attitude the city took on some of the roads out there. Very, very poor. Egregious. And another comment, a week later, the roads are still not clear, giving them an F. But James Loomis, who was not here, maybe he was learning some more Gunzar tactics or something. I'm not sure. But Loomis, who was not here, gives the city an A. Here's what Loomis had to say. Quote, now I'll tell you why I give the city an A. I lived on the Illinois-Wisconsin border for 7.5 years of my life. The event that we just had was a normal event there. In that part of the country, cities have more equipment to take care of things. But in Lubbock, we think things come and go. They don't come and go. This event had to happen. We had to react to it afterwards, not during. If you react during the event, then you're just wasting your time because snow is coming down, wind is blowing, etc. Once we react with the equipment we have and the personnel we have. I can tell you that many people have had many sleepless nights trying to take care of the situation. I think the city reacted really nicely. KCBD asked him, we heard that you and Quincy were out of town during the snowstorm. What was your role while you were gone? He said, well, my mother, who is in a facility in Florida, that's where I was. Obviously, the trip was planned way ahead of time. My role was to keep informed, and I did keep informed while I was away. And if anyone needed advice, I gave advice from a distance. Now, look, I'm not going to blame a man for visiting his mom in a facility in Florida. But I will say this. You also have a responsibility to the city. And if you're supposedly a great city manager, but remember, he does have one foot out the door. If you're the city manager and you know a snowstorm, a blizzard is coming, maybe you say, hey, Mom, I'll come see you next week. The airport is still here. You could still leave the week after or even a few days after. I would think as a city manager and as a strong city manager government, you should be here instead of flying out to Florida and then saying, well, I was informed while I was out in Florida. And if anyone needed me, all they had to do is pick up a phone. Yeah, I know how that works. That doesn't always work out the way you say it works out. Yeah, if anyone needs me, I'll pick up the phone. Oh, I'll turn my phone off. Oops. Yeah, I love that. And if anyone needed advice, people can call me. Quote, had you been here, do you think you would have done things differently? No, absolutely not. Once again, we have to work with what we have. KCBD asked, I know there were people who were on 12-hour shifts. You guys had people who were just here constantly. Did you guys have a conference call? Did you guide people? Who was leading all of this? Now, a city manager in Florida, could probably be on a conference call. On my iPhone, I can do a conference call. I can do Skype. You got an iPad, you got Skype. You got a computer, you got Skype. You could conference call. No. During the storm, Mark Yearwood, and the assistant city manager, was in charge. We have an emergency operations center that has individuals in there making determinations on how and what and when and why we were to dispatch services and the equipment we have to use. So do we need James Loomis? Do we need a city manager right now? I mean, besides, being a gun czar, do we really need a city manager? Because apparently we don't. Apparently we can just put anybody in charge. And the mayor can take all the heat. It's not a strong mayoral government. Well, we still have to blame the mayor for everything. Even though if city employees refuse to do anything, the mayor can't do anything. He can't fire them. That's up to James Loomis. James Loomis is in charge of city personnel, and he wasn't here. And simply saying, well, I had a pre-planned trip to Florida. So what? You had a historic blizzard that we were warned 10 days beforehand that was well on its way. Cancel your trip. I'm not trying to sound cold-hearted or anything. I know his mom's in Florida. But maybe you call your mom or call somebody else and say, hey, I'm going to have to wait a few days. We're about to get hit possibly with a huge snowstorm, and I've got to be here. If you're in charge of the city, and a city manager, from what we've heard, he's in charge of the city. There are council members who don't want to defy James Loomis because he's in charge of personnel. You stay here. Then KCBD, we'll get to the phones here in a second. KCBD asked this. We have received many emails, I'm sure the city has too, just about how dangerous these roads were, not having the equipment to clear the roads. It's now 10 days. There's still some snow on the roads. Quote, there is very little out there. Very little. This is from James Loomis. I have driven this city almost every street, very little snow. I can't imagine people expecting it to be absolute, total bare concrete or asphalt. I can't imagine that this late into the game. You know who this reminds me of? And I mean this with all due respect to James Loomis. He's Baghdad Bob. The U.S. tanks are not in the city. The U.S. tanks, the American troops are not here. Everything is fine. James Loomis, there's no snow. What are you talking about? Everything's fine. The roads are clear. The roads are okay. Don't worry about it. The roads are, you shouldn't expect them to be completely bare. But the roads are fine. I've driven all of the roads in my time back from Florida. I've driven them all. I've been all over this place. All the roads are perfect. There are no tanks in the city. Everything's fine. He's Baghdad Bob. Now, I don't think a lot of people have confidence in James Loomis today. I don't think right or wrong, I don't think a lot of citizens have confidence in James Loomis. Send to the phones, 770-5790, toll free, 1-800-687-0790. Jay, you're on KFYO.
Hey, Chad, how are you doing this morning?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I got just a few quick points. First of all, my wife is from Amarillo, and we were in contact with her family during this thing, and within 24 hours of the snow stopping, their roads were clear. They were clearing and sanding roads during the event. They had sanded roads prior to the event, and they had things pretty much up and going. I have a family member, I'm not going to say who the person is because I don't want him to get in trouble, that works for the city. Suggestions were made of getting, road graders and front end loaders and all this stuff out in the roads to start getting the roads cleared. Couldn't get a decision on that. Just leave it and we'll take care of it later. And, of course, but then Mr. Loomis and his crowd, they were really more important in protecting the city, not from the snowstorm, but from those dangerous employees that have concealed carry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was just wrapped up and he couldn't really do anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unacceptable.
Well, and I mean, you have James Loomis. He makes $250 a year. Quincy White, the deputy city manager, he's second in command. He makes, according to KCBD, $190,000 a year, and both of them are out of town. And
That's
the city
right.
council, they're the people taking the heat for this, and they don't make a dime.
That's right.
And they're not in charge. I mean, James Loomis is the one in charge.
Like I said, my wife's family's up in Amarillo. They were telling us that the city of Amarillo was putting out notices. They were staging equipment. They were sanding roads. They were preparing for what they knew was going to be a bad snowstorm.
Yeah.
And we sit here in the city of Lubbock with our collective thumbs up our backside, going, "Oh, well, what do you expect us to do? It's snow."
Yeah.
Well, we have road graders, we have front end loaders, we have snow plows, we have dump trucks. You're telling me you couldn't have done something?
Well, for Loomis, I'm sure the weather was fine in Florida.
Oh yeah,
That's what he was
beautiful
concerned
down there.
about. It's beautiful, sunny, beautiful weather down there in Florida. Hey, thanks for the call, Jay.
Thank you. We'll let you guys later.
Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Let's see here. KFYO text line, folks weighing in. Jared saying in Amarillo they only had 6 inches of snow. And we had nearly a foot here. A little bit easier to clear up 6 inches of snow than a foot in a blizzard. I don't know if they had blizzard conditions up in Amarillo or not. Again, the conditions and the wind, all that kind of play a part in it. But it is also easier to clear up 6 inches of snow than a foot with snow drifts that are even higher. But at the end of the day, I still think that James Loomis should have been present in the city. Or at least should have been, even if you can't be in the city. Get on a conference call instead of saying, oh, well, the third in command. He was in charge. Well, I'm sorry, you're making $250,000 a year. That's how much the taxpayers are paying for you. Why don't you get on a phone call? Why don't you get on Skype and see if there's anything that you can help out with? Now, I don't expect James Loomis to be out there, with a snowplow. But what I do expect is that whoever is in charge, which would be the city manager in a lot of these cases, mayor has some responsibilities, city manager has a lot of responsibilities as well. You need to be accessible, easily accessible, and you need to be on conference calls. If your city is in the middle of a blizzard, a historic blizzard, and you're seeing pictures and hearing reports of emergency vehicles being stuck in the snow, maybe you should show a little more concern. And again, as I said earlier in this week, I don't completely blame the city for not scooping everything up within a day or two. I would say the city probably gets anywhere from a C to a B. But a lot of it's not their fault. A lot of it is you don't have the equipment to clear up a blizzard. You don't have the equipment to clear it up in 48 hours. I did get a text message with a picture from 19th and Covenant. We're right across the street from Covenant on 19th Street. 19th Street still down to one lane. I guess Loomis didn't go down 19th Street. But all the streets are fine. All of them are okay. Loomis gives the city an A for the job they've done. KCBD and Dan Jackson weighed in saying the city manager gets an F for the storm response. Dan Jackson also said, I, for one, believe the city manager and deputy city manager should be reprimanded or fired. City council should take immediate action and decide if this is the type of absentee management they want leading our city. I would just remind you, James Loomis already has 1 foot out the door. Drive-by caller. It's a good thing Loomis wasn't here. He would have declared martial law. Citizens, hand in your license to carry.